to Google Hangouts with the National Crowdfunding Association of Canada. My name is Melissa Dysinger. I'm interning here for the summer. So the National Crowdfunding Association of Canada is a cross-Canada nonprofit actively engaged with both social and investment crowdfunding stakeholders. NCFA provides education, research, and networking opportunities to a growing population of 1,300 plus members and works closely with industry, government, academia, and the whole ecosystem of partners and affiliates to create a strong, vibrant crowdfunding industry in Canada. So today we're super excited. We're speaking with the CEO and co-founder of InvestNextDoor, Tabitha Creighton. And the theme of today's discussion is all about Tabitha's experience as a female founder and the challenges in her road to success. So hello, Tabitha. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Melissa. Good morning.
So for our first question, for those who are watching and are not aware, can you briefly explain what InvestNextDoor is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So InvestNextDoor was initially founded in the US just about 3 years ago. And we're really focused on helping small businesses get direct lending from either consumers or banks or private financial institutions that they otherwise might not get access to. So from our perspective, it's really all about equalizing that access to capital so that small businesses are on the same footing as large businesses in terms of the options and the abilities that they have to get the money that they need to borrow in order to grow.
So what were some of your challenges in the process of founding InvestNextDoor?
Well, I mean, I think the first is that we're in a very new industry. And when we first started, nobody had yet tried to use a security structure to allow consumers to lend directly to small businesses. So there was a tremendous amount of work that went down. First, we had to do our research to see if we were going to launch in Canada, and then going down to the US, which is ultimately where the regulations were a little bit more ready for what we were trying to do. But where weren't there challenges? In our case, we were looking at doing something that nobody had done before, making sure that we cleared all the legal hurdles, then needing to go out and find cost-effective ways to engage small businesses, to engage direct investors. There were many, many. And as a female founder, I think my extra personal challenge is that 3 years ago, I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at home. Wow. So I was doing all of this while I was had 2 little ones at home.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm sure you are inspiring to many other mothers out there.
Or at least sleep deprived to all of them, that's for sure.
Definitely, definitely. So when you were a young girl, did you ever dream about founding your own business? And then from there, what were your steps? Like where did you come from to bring yourself here today?
So I don't know that I specifically dreamed of founding my own business. I definitely, even from my first couple of jobs as a teenager, liked working in an entrepreneurial way. And I, really liked the freedom that gave me to be creative and to try new things. So I think maybe those were the roots that were sown. And essentially how I landed in this particular role today is a very long career through technology. But my first career right out of school was as an entrepreneur. So I ran my own web development company with a friend. And from there, it eventually led me to here. So I guess I've been doing it off and on for almost 20 years.
Well, that's awesome. Throughout your whole experience being a female founder or just being a female in general, do you have a specific woman that inspires you to lead like you do today?
When I read that question in advance and I had to think really hard about it. And honestly, I think at this stage of my life, at least, I have a couple of friends that are probably most inspirational for me. They both are entrepreneurs themselves with kids, and I take a lot of my inspiration from seeing how well I think they do. And I'm like, oh, you know what? If they can do that, one of them is a single mom and she's an entrepreneur. And the other one is works very hard in 2 jobs and she's got 2 kids. And so, from my perspective, I think that my inspiration comes from everywhere, and anybody that seems to do what's impossible to me is really, really inspirational.
an inspiration to me. I think it would be awesome to one day found my own business, but I don't really know where I want to go yet. So
well, there you go. That's step one.
Yeah. So with InvestNextDoor, tell me about a project or accomplishment that you consider to be your most significant in your entire career.
I think the most exciting thing that I created with InvestNextDoor was a transparent way for small businesses and the investors or lenders to actually understand how interest rates should work between them. And I know that doesn't sound very interesting, but if you ever go to a bank and you see interest rates, you're going to pay 19% on a credit card or 8% on a loan. I don't know if you've ever stopped to think about, well, why is that? How come I'm 8%? Is that, is that too much? Is it enough? Why is that me? And, my friend is like 9%. And so creating a transparent way for everybody to really understand that for us is a real turning point, because it allows lenders to be able to benchmark themselves to know if the rate of return is good. But more importantly, it lets the everyday individual understand, well, why is their interest rate the way that it is? And that educational process is really, really important.
That's very interesting to me, because I'm always wondering, what is up with this interest rate? I just applied for my first credit card, so.
Oh, no, so we really look to help folks like you to not just understand, but make it easier and give you more options.
Awesome. Yeah. So what do you think that the most significant barrier is to female leadership all across the board?
That's a tough one. I think that maybe it's, in some ways it's the same regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, which is knowing that those opportunities are actually out there, right? So, trying to get the resources you need to really think about, could I do this? I think is tough for both genders. I think maybe it's more difficult for women because we don't have as many role models that we can look to see what that path was. There's not a lot of really visible female founders out there, and I think that's one of the things that maybe makes it more challenging, is if you don't have that template to say, oh, okay, that's how they did it. It can be a little bit more challenging. And I think, sometimes we're just not pushed as hard to a certain degree. And as a result, we just don't feel like that's something that has to be part of, or could be part of our DNA. And so what I really like to do when I mentor young women that work for InvestNextDoor or at some of the nonprofits, for me, it's all about give you the options and give you the knowledge that, you can do a startup. Anybody can. And, one of our marketing folks who just finished her internship, she was looking at, well, how do I do this? And where am I going from here? And she hadn't even thought about being an entrepreneur. But when we went through, did an exercise and said, well, find something that you're passionate about. And we realized that what she was passionate about wasn't marketing per se, but being in the nutrition and the yoga space, and where she could take that. And instead of having to be an employee for one of those businesses, she realized that what she could do was be an entrepreneur and create marketing kits for all of them. So I think sometimes it's just about helping to give women the opportunity and go, here's the path. And I think once we have that path, it becomes really easy for us. I think women are really natural leaders. So
I have to agree with that one. So kind of going off of that question, do you think any of those barriers will change for women in the next generation that want to be female founders, are female founders? Do you think those will change?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, while the statistics still aren't great for the number of women versus men who are founders, they're definitely changing. We're starting to see more and more women like myself who are just going out there and starting to create new companies. Women are starting businesses almost at a rate these days that are equal to men. So the next generation is already normalizing those numbers. So I think by the time my kids, for instance, get into the workplace, although they're boys, but I think the girls that are going to be in their classes aren't going to think about it as weird and have to look very far in order to find those role models. And the other thing that I think is interesting is that the educational systems are starting to teach entrepreneurship. So the whole concept of a gig economy, I think, is going to make the idea of being a founder just that much more natural, because it becomes this whole normal work path. You don't have to go look for a job. you can make your own. And I think that's really gonna help as well.
I definitely agree with that. I just finished my 3rd year at the University of Cincinnati in Ohio, and I think everybody's really focusing more on the entrepreneurship side of things, which I had never considered until going into my marketing classes, and they're talking about entrepreneurship. So
it's a service-based, we're moving into a service-based economy, so I think that'll change a great deal.
So do you have any advice for other females wanting to start their own business or find themselves in a situation where they are going to start their own business?
Well, I'd say the first thing is don't be afraid to fail, right? So I think that there's nothing wrong with failing. You're going to. I think you need to accept it. You need to understand that, you know, part of that success is going to be, there's going to be things that don't go well. Plan for it, but then embrace it too, because every failure, and I know this is such a cliche, but it's true. Every failure really does have a new opportunity to find success, right? You really do learn from that. So I think if you go into it and you know, here's my foundation, I've got my cushion so I don't have to stress out over what happens next. It gives you a lot of freedom to be able to get creative and really always follow your passion. I think that's the other easiest way to create a successful company, because if your passion comes through with what you're doing, you're going to be so much more likely to find customers that are going to see that and want to be part of it with you.
That's a perfect answer, especially someone going into the business world very soon.
Great.
So do you have any final remarks that you would like to make?
Well, I think just the only thing I would say is that from one woman to another, find other women that share your passion. You're going to have lots of ups, lots of downs. There are going to be a whole bunch of days where you're running a company going, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But having that strong support network of other women that you can, either vent to, cry on their shoulders, or celebrate those successes with some awesome drinks are going to be what get you through, just like anything else in life.
Awesome. I love that. Always good to have your girlfriends behind you.
Absolutely. Got to have it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for joining me today, Tabitha. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks, Melissa. You too.
Thanks. Again, my name is Melissa Dysinger with the National Crowdfunding Association of Canada, and thank you so much for watching.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.